guys, welcome to episode 37 of the Next Stage podcast for men with Rob Stout. Today, Rob begins a two-part series on the 5 critical challenges facing every man, and they might surprise you. While the culture teaches us that manning up means kicking butt, taking names, and taking the hill, Rob's talking about overcoming these challenges in a very different way. Today, Rob talks about surrender and purpose. In part 2, Rob will plumb the scriptures for insights on career, relationships, and sexuality. So let's silence the phone, turn off the distractions, and get a pen, notebook, and a Bible. Here's Rob Stout.
Shortly after moving to the great state of Colorado, my wife and I decided that we would go camping. We would get out there. And we happened to have a 1-year-old at the time. We had some camping gear. We were excited to get out there. So we loaded up our Nissan Pathfinder and headed west. And we were not KOA camping kind of people, those softies that go and set up their fifth wheel and hang out and cook all kinds of food and have to deal all night with the neighbors, dog barking, and people getting drunk and all that kind of stuff. No. We were outdoors type of people. So we took a look at the Bureau of Land Management, which is basically public land that you can camp on. There is no bathroom, no water, no anything. You just go find a place and camp. And we're like, that's the kind of people we are. So we loaded up our vehicle, our Pathfinder, and drove 4 hours west out of Denver, up I-70, through Eisenhower Tunnel, over a couple mountain passes until we ended up pretty much in the western part of the state, about 4 hours away. We were up in the remote area, and we were like, this is the life. They don't have this in Ohio where I grew up. They have the Buckeyes, thank God, but they do not have this kind of open land. And we were like, this is incredible. We set up our tent. We did all of that stuff, had our table set up. Our 1-year-old, Madison, she was tiny at the time. She, was digging it. She was doing great. We got everything set up the table, set up the stove, set up the camp. And I was like, let me throw these sleeping bags in there and we'll be good to go into the tent. And I went to the Pathfinder. We forgot the sleeping bags. We had food. I think we had the diaper genie thing that you stuff the diapers in. We had water. We had lots of food. We had a tent. We had a stove. We had a heater. We had everything we needed, including the pillows. But we did not have the one thing we needed, the sleeping bags. I quickly assessed the situation. It was going to get down into the 50s that night. Up in the mountains. We were about 8,000 feet, I think, something like that. It was going to get down pretty cold. I had a pair of shorts on and some wool socks because I was outdoor guy, had to have those wool socks. Looked at my 1-year-old. I looked over at her. She was standing in the door of the tent. I'm going to put this picture on YouTube, bawling her eyes out. Not because we weren't camping, but just because she was tired and she was ready to go home. She was throwing a fit. I nearly threw a fit too, I got to tell you. Our solution was very simple. We took a quick family pic right by the tent and drove 4 hours home. Men, the reason I share that with you is because, like my camping adventure, like getting geared up and being excited for what was ahead, many of you are setting out in life with everything you need except the just few pieces of gear that you need that will make your life successful. You've got your career. You maybe have your education. You know where you're heading. You might have a girlfriend or a wife. You may have kids. You may have a great hobby. You may be great at golf. You may have money. You may be any number of those things. But if you do not have the essential pieces figured out, brother, you're in trouble. It will catch up with you. And like me, I had my family, my young family, in tow. Many of you do too. That's why we're talking about this. Welcome to The Next Stage. I'm your host, Rob Stout, and we're going to take a look at 5 critical challenges that men face today. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the first 2 of those, and then we're going to take a look at the next 3 in our next episode. But we're going to take a look at the 5 critical challenges that men face today. And if not faced, if not accomplished, if not mastered, or at least traveling, working on those things, you will end up like me, all set, all ready to go, but you're not staying. You don't have staying power in that adventure because those things are not in place. What are those 5 critical challenges that men face? Let's take a look at them. Challenge number 1. It's called the challenge of surrender. That word for many, many, many men is not very popular. I get it. It's not for me either. But it's the challenge, the most important challenge that you will face in your life, the challenge of surrender. In particular, where you are with God in the spiritual area of your life. You might think, wow, doesn't that come last? Don't you kind of tee me up and then get to that one last and kind of have the haymaker with God? No, I want to give it to you up front. Those of you who are of faith, I would challenge you to consider the depth of your relationship with God, where it's at, and all the things that are involved in your life, your job, your family, your fitness, your hobbies, your money, your 401k, all those things. Where does this challenge and facing this and cultivating a relationship with God fit? Those of you who are relatively new to faith or just investigating faith, I would invite you to lean into this. And more than just God, I want to get very personal and ask the question, where are you in your surrender to Jesus Christ? You might think, Jesus, why? Here's why I want to talk about this, because I believe that men have been fed a very wimpy version of Jesus. I did when I was growing up. It did not sound very masculine to me as I was growing up, as I was in my teens, even my 20s, even my 30s, to say that my life was surrendered to Jesus. Why? Because the version I bought into of Jesus was a wimpy Jesus. He was safe. In fact, he was harmless. He was the Jesus who sat with children and helped widows and rescued people. And he was kind of the kid on the playground. And I know this is a little bit, curse, I guess, but he was kind of the kid on the playground that got the crap beat out of him all the time and then was like, turn the other cheek. The version I got of Jesus was not something that I aspired to. Now, let me clarify. That aspect of who Jesus is, as tender, as gentle, as welcoming children and reaching out to the ostracized of his day, that no doubt that's part of the equation. That's part of who he is. The image of that Isaiah teaches about Jesus as the suffering servant who hung on the cross, who came to die for sins and renew a relationship with God, all true. But I want to tell you that was not the Jesus that I guess inspired me to follow. Let me tell you the other side of Jesus. The other aspect of who Jesus is a powerful king, a ruler, one who spoke creation into existence because he existed before creation was. The one who in the beginning existed, the one who John says he was the Word, and the Word was with us. The Word was life, and the light was the light of men. Jesus is the one who has, not just had, but had command over sickness, over death. He had command over the forces of nature. He had command over everything. Jesus was not a victim. In fact, the cross, the symbol of suffering, the symbol of humiliation, the death that he took on was a willing sacrifice that he laid down his life. And even said, if you notice, nobody takes it from me. I lay it down and I will rise again. And he did. Men, the version of Jesus that is worth surrendering is that Jesus. And more than that, he's the Jesus that John paints a beautiful picture of in Revelation, who sits at the right hand of God, whose face shines like the light, whose eyes are like blazing fire, who will return someday to make all things right, who will rule. That is a Jesus worth surrendering to. See, understanding who Jesus is, while we have our character formed by his gentleness, by his kindness, by his humility, by his sacrifice, we also have our character formed by his strength. And I'm convinced that most men do not want to follow wimpy Jesus, but most men I know will follow King Jesus. You see, the challenge for you in this challenge, the application for you in this challenge is, will you bow your life to him? As we've talked about many times on this podcast, God has created you to be a king, small k, here on planet Earth. He has even given you a portion of his realm to take care of and to tend to. But I would challenge you, how are you surrendering that to him? Small k king needs to bow to big K King Jesus. Are you doing that? Are you doing that with your life? Are you saying, you know what, in my relationships, man, I need to learn to put my wife and my family first instead of being so selfish and so all about me all the time. With my money, I need to invest. I want to invest in things that matter. I want to give to my church. I want to give to relief organizations. I want to give to spread the good news of what God is doing around the world. I want to be a man like that. Men, with your sexuality, are you aligning that with the way a king would act, who's under the authority of King Jesus? Men, how are you facing that challenge? You see, like me, going off camping, we just kind of ran off, but we forgot the most important element. You can go without water, you can go without food, but you can't freeze to death. If you do, you're done. And you certainly can't do that with a 1-year-old. Men, I wonder, this very first challenge that we're talking about, of the 5 key challenges that men face, how are you doing in this challenge of surrender? May you be a man who figures that out, who leans in, and who figures out the challenge of surrender. We want to be very practical with you on this show. This is not just me getting up and ranting and raving every couple weeks, but instead to allow practical applications for that, ways that you could grow. And I want you to listen to our producer, Chris, as he talks about an incredible opportunity coming up that we invite all of you to be part of. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, producer Chris here, and I want to talk to you about the next Sherpa Unlimited Retreat for Men coming up this September. You know, finding your passion, power, purpose, and perspective doesn't come by accident. It requires intentionality, and you discover it with like-minded men. The With Everything Retreat is a weekend experience that intentionally interrupts your busy life to learn what it means to be created in God's image. Join me and Rob Stout and the men of LifeGate Church of Denver for the With Everything Men's Retreat at the beautiful Silver Cliff Ranch near Buena Vista, Colorado. We're meeting from September 12 through 14, 2025. That's less than 12 weeks away, and I don't want you to miss out, so register today. Go to sherpaunlimited.com/lifegate or email thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. Also, if you're part of a scouting team for the men's ministry at your church, this is a great opportunity to learn about the With Everything Retreat experience. Just email thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com.
You know, just like I ran off in the wilderness and had my wife and one-year-old in tow and forgot the most important thing. We're talking about the 5 key challenges that men face in life. The first one's surrender. The second one is the challenge of purpose. I'm assuming you saw the movie The Matrix. Great movie. Love it. Blue pill, red pill, that kind of a choice that we had to make. What it's about, really, is it's about that they live in an artificial world. It's an artificial world, and everything around them, they need to figure out what's real and what's not, and to get out and to break out of that. Man, I would argue today, as we talk about this challenge of purpose, that we live in the Matrix as well. We live in an artificial world where images and just manufactured stuff is thrown at us every day. And we have the ability to fall for the facade of status or the facade of growing your career and making that the one single pursuit that you're all about. Not that there's anything wrong with your career growth. I believe it pleases God. But is it the thing that you're caught up in this artificial world? Are you caught up in an artificial world of who has the highest wealth, the most wealth? Who has the best balance in their 401k? Who has the second home, the third home? Who's got the most toys? Who's got the most well-behaved kids? The kids that go to the best schools? All of that stuff is absolutely an artificial world. And man, I want to challenge you that the challenge of purpose is identifying who you are and what you're living for. The challenge of purpose is identifying who you are and what you're living for. The first step, I think, is pretty fundamental, but I don't want to just go by it. It's identifying who you are. It's identifying what your strengths are. It's identifying what your gifts are, how you're skilled. Are you good at working with your hands? Are you good at working with your mind? Are you good at problem solving? Are you a good people person? Are you a good analyst? Are you a good whatever? It's identifying that, and it takes some time in life to do that, and you do that through, of course, assessments and all that kind of stuff, but you just kind of do that and figure it out. And it kind of takes just getting going in life to figure it out, doesn't it? Trying a couple things, getting moving and figuring out what you're good at, identifying who you are. But the bigger picture, and not really the bigger picture, but the second step in that is the challenge of identifying what you're going to live for. What you're going to live for. The answer of what am I living for is a key question to answer in the challenge of purpose. Many of you tell me stories about how you were chasing something in life. You were chasing success. You were chasing money. You were chasing fulfillment. You were chasing sex. You were chasing drugs. You were chasing euphoria. You were chasing recreation. You were chasing all kinds of things. And yet, how you came up empty in that. It's interesting. Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer who had all the medals and was the most successful Olympian that we have ever had. That was his purpose, was to be the best swimmer. And when he was, then what? You see, your purpose just can't be in what you do. It cannot be in how much you have. It cannot be in leaning the ladder up against the corporate structure and just climbing the ladder. It cannot be just in that. Why? Because if you achieve that, then what? And secondly, if you fail at that, then what? If those rungs on that ladder fall out, or if you get injured, or if you come up to an obstacle in your life, then what? I would contend that purpose is forged in knowing God. Sounds very religious, doesn't it? It did to me for a while, too. Until I figured out, guess what? That purpose was forged in knowing God. I found that the happiest people I knew, the most content people I knew, the most content people that I read about in the scriptures, even though they were flawed, were people who were called friends of God. Abraham, the father of faith, was called a friend of God. He got to know God. He responded to God. God said, go. I want you to go this direction. He said, okay, let's go. Where are we going? Don't know, but we're going. He was called a friend of God. Moses, another character that I love in the scriptures, is a friend of God. He was a man who met with God daily, face to face, and spoke with him, quote, like a friend speaks to a friend. Gosh, I love that. Someone asked me about Sherpa one time. Sherpa Unlimited. Boy, you're leaving the corporate world and you're doing this like full time. How old are you? 57? And I tell you what, dude, I wanted to smack this cocky millennial dude up against the face. I said, listen, Moses was 80 years old when he started leading Israel. Caleb was 80 years old when he wanted to take the high country of the promised land. Joshua was almost 80 when he started leading. And I will not use your youth and inexperience against you if you do not use my age against me. The reality is not quite that strong, I guess. But the reality is, men, finding your purpose and starting to travel with God can happen when you're young. And it can happen when you have the best of intentions laid out before you. And it can happen when you hit some bumps in the road. It can happen when you go off on another track and come back. And it can happen when you start a new adventure. And it doesn't have to be my story. It's your story. Both Abraham and Moses had stories that were unique to them, but they were called friends of God. And I want to tell you, men who are in your second half of life, your second half of your career, your best years are ahead of you, not behind you. So don't settle into your stuff, your golf game, and all of that. Pursue a relationship with God. Pursue what your next adventure looks like. Pursue knowing God. The other character that was called a friend of God was David. He was a man after God's own heart, incredibly flawed, and yet a man who pursued after God, found his purpose in him. You know what I see? I see that moral perfection is not the point of the story. It's certainly not in any of their lives. As you dig into their lives, Abraham, Moses, David, and by the way, every other character in the Bible, with the exception of Christ, very flawed. It's certainly not in my life. Man, if I'm on the moral perfection trail, and I'm on the trail of continually looking and trying to gaze inward and analyze every motive and everything in my life, especially in the form of psychotherapy, I am in trouble. But man, purpose is found in knowing God and in humbly coming before him and saying, oh, I know my flaws. Help me with those things. But I want to pursue after you, and I want to impact the world for you. The point, men, is that the challenge of purpose comes out of knowing the one who you're surrendered to. You see how number 1 and number 2 connect? The first is the challenge of surrender. The second is the challenge of purpose. They go hand in hand. And it was Jesus who said, listen, of all those things that are out there, money, success, fame, even your daily needs, he said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. Man, purpose is born out of surrender. You know, one of the things at the next stage that we want to do is do more than just give you little nuggets of information or little nuggets of inspiration. We want to dig in with you and help you pursue not being like anybody around here, certainly not me, but pursue what God has made you to be, how he's made you to walk, what he's done in your life. And I want you to listen to our producer, Chris, as he talks about an opportunity to grow in that. We'll be right back.
Men, are you tired of going it alone? Hey guys, this is producer Chris Mann for the Next Stage podcast for men. You've heard Rob say, whatever your struggle, the road to recovery starts when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's why I'm in a Sherpa Freedom Group, a group of men circling up not just to commiserate or just have some kind of one-off cathartic experience, but to lock arms and conquer the deep issues and challenges of life in community with men who are also living intentionally. Men, stop doing life alone. Like today. Like now. Stop doing life alone now. A new Sherpa Freedom Group is forming for the fall of 2025, and we need men who want to live intentionally. We need men who are going to help others live intentionally, and we need you. And can I be a bit bold for a moment and maybe even sound over the top? You need us. Well, if not us, then you need a group like us. And if nobody else is knocking on your door at the moment, maybe in this moment, this might be God using little old Chris Mann from the faraway land of Nowheresville, Indiana. Maybe, just maybe, God is using somebody to pound on your door, and maybe it's time to open up. Send us an email today at thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. That's thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com.
Men, several years ago when we moved to the beautiful state of Colorado, we packed up our gear, we drove 4 miles west, we set up camp, and we discovered that I forgot the most important element of the trip. And we're talking in this series about the 5 challenges that men face. And they are challenges that you've got to navigate in order to be successful. I left the sleeping bags. Not a good move. I could have left basically anything else, but the sleeping bag's pretty critical. I don't want you to get down the road in your life and think, man, I left out surrender. I left out purpose. We're wrapping up this episode, but I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that there is a challenge for you in understanding to not go off in life with everything you need except the things you need the most. I want to ask you this as we wrap up. What is the one thing that you can do to apply what you just listened to? More than just maybe being inspired, or more than just, Rob's stories about camping, or more than just whatever. What is the one thing that you can do? Maybe it's registering for the With Everything retreat. I would love to see you there. We would love to have you join us. Maybe it's personal coaching. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's connecting with something you're already connected in, or taking a step in service. It doesn't have to be with us. There's a million opportunities around. Opportunities are not the problem. Your action is. What I want you to do is to email me, thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com, and tell me what your action step is for what we've talked about today. Men, the stakes are high. You only get one shot at life. And may you be a man who doesn't just go off and start running and gunning, but may you be a man who holds on to the things that really matter. May you face these two challenges of life that are most critical to navigate and be a man who grows in strength and in courage. That's the first two of those challenges. We're going to take a look at challenge 3, 4, and 5 in our next episode. I invite you to join us, and we will see you on our next episode, The Next Stage. By the way, invite a friend to listen to this. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for the Next Stage podcast with Rob Stout. The Next Stage is a production of Sherpa Unlimited executive and personal life coaching for men, based in Denver, Colorado. Learn more at sherpaunlimited.com/thenextstage or visit Sherpa's communities on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. For questions, comments, or feedback, email us at thenextstage@sherpaunlimited.com. The Next Stage distributes episodes every 2 weeks on Wednesday mornings. The Next Stage helps men built in God's image live their life with passion, power, purpose, and perspective. And the key to doing this is by exploring the ancient wisdom found in the Holy Scriptures. If you don't have a copy of the Bible, you can visit any public library and check one out. Or just download a free online Bible app called YouVersion for your smartphone. Go to your smartphone's app store and search YOU version and select the YouVersion Bible. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.